Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session of Structural Organization in Animal Practice Questions. Disclaimer. Today's session learning objective to practice and master the core concept covered in the NCERT practice questions through problem solving. So we are going to solve some of the problem. Okay. These will be the MCQ based question. And with that, we will able to understand the concept. Okay. Index practice question. There will be question 1 to question 21. So the first question is here. Which of the following is a characteristic feature of male frog that helps differentiate them from females? This question is based on the NCERT section 7.2. And let us see the options. Narrow abdomen, A. B. Copulatory pad on the first digit of the forelimbs. C. Vocal sacs. And D. All of the above. Right? Let us see the answer of this question. So this was our question. And the answer is D option. All of the above. Right? So male frogs can be identified by their following feature. You can identify the male frog very easily. When you see in the environment, you can identify like what are the features. Let us see that. First one, narrow abdomen, the presence of a copulatory pad on the first digit of their forelimb, right? Their abdomen will be narrow. Whereas when you see the female frog, they are having a wider abdomen, right? The size of the female is larger than the male. Male are smaller in size. Second thing, there will be the copulatory pads present on the male frog first digit of the forelimb. Forelimbs means their hand, right? And they are having only 4 digits. And in that, the first digit is having what? This copulatory pad or the nuptial pad. It is also called as nuptial pads. Presence of vocal sac. This male can produce sound because in the throat region, they are having the vocal sac. And this vocal sac is having a very minute membrane-like structure. So when they inhale air, the air gets filled inside this vocal sac and it produces sound. So that cracking sound they produce, and that is for attracting female frog towards themselves, right? The copulatory pad is used to grasp the female during the mating. And what happens during the mating time? The male frog hold the female from the back, and this copulatory or the nuptial pad, which is present on the first digit of the forelimb, helps to grasp the female tightly, right? This happens during the mating time. So here you can see the 2 features of the male frog. The one that is called as the vocal sac, which is present at the throat region. And it is a very minute membrane-like things that get filled with the air and it produces sound. Now here you can see the hand of the male frog. It is having 4 fingers, or you can say 4 digits. The first digit having the swelling. It is like of pad-like structure that develops this at the first finger or the first digit, and this is called as nuptial pads or copulatory pad, right? So if with these features, you can easily distinguish the male and female frog whenever you see in the environment, right? Okay, let us move to our next question. Which of the following is a characteristic feature of a frog? So let us see what are the different characteristic features. And this question is from NCERT section 7.2. So laying eggs in water. Laying eggs in water is a characteristic feature of frogs. Why? Reproduction. Because of the reproduction process that happens in the water. Frogs are the amphibians that typically lay their eggs in water or moist environments. And the eggs are covered in a jelly like substance that keeps them moist and protected. Okay. This jelly like substances, which is make a cover over the this egg. It makes or keep the egg moist and protected from the different organisms. The egg develop into the tadpoles that live exclusively in water before metamorphosing into an adult frog. Okay. Here comes the next question. What is the tympanum in a frog? What is tympanum in a frog? This is coming from the NCERT section 7.2. Okay. And let us see the options. A type of bone. B, a respiratory organ. C, a part of the digestive system. D, a membrane for hearing. Right? Let us see the answer. What is the tympanum in a frog? So this is coming from the NCERT section 7.2 and the correct answer is option D, a membrane for hearing. Yes, tympanum is the a membrane like structure that also constitute as a ear of frog, right? So tympanum in a frog is a thin circular membrane located on each side of the frog's head. Okay, the two tympanic membranes are there. One just behind the left eye, okay, and towards the right eye also, just behind the eye. It serves as an important part of the frog's auditory system. Auditory is related to hearing. So these tympanic membrane are the part of the auditory system of the frog. And they have the following characteristics and functions. Structure. It is a thin disc-shaped membrane and located externally on both the side of the head. So it is at the external. This is present externally. Okay. We are having the tympanic membrane. Humans are having the tympanic membrane inside the hole like structure leading to this pinna like structure, ear, which we call it. And that goes inside as a hole. And there comes the membrane. But here in the case of frog, this membrane is present at the surface only, just behind the skin. Usually visible as a circular patch of the skin, right? So it is like when you see, you will not you will see this as a skin part, but actually it is a membrane that is concerned for hearing. So here you can see this is just behind the eye, there is a tympanic membrane. Okay. So function: collects and transmit the sound waves, vibrate in response to the sound waves in the air. So they take the vibration and it start vibrating when the waves, the sound waves, okay, when sound waves strikes to this membrane, the membrane start vibrating. Transfer these vibration to the inner ear through the columella middle ear bone, right? So these vibrations are transmitted to the inner ear so that they could have a sense of hearing, and that helps frog detect predators and communicate with other frogs. Like female is having this tympanic membrane, and when the male produces sound, they could hear that sound and get attracted toward the male. So this tympanic membrane is very, very important in the case of frogs. Next question. How do frogs breathe? This is NCERT section 7.2. This question is coming from 7.2. Let us see the option. A, gills only. B, lungs only. C, skin and lungs. And D, gills and lungs. Let us see the answer of this question. Yes, the answer is skin and lungs. The respiration done by the skin is called as cutaneous respiration, and the one that is done with the help of lungs is called as pulmonary respiration. So frogs have a unique two-part breathing system. The first one is the lung. Adult frog have a pair of lungs that they use for breathing air. This lung is, you can see, only in the adult frog, not in the tadpole larva. In the tadpole larva, they are having the gills. They lack a diaphragm and instead use a buccal pump. Okay, they use a buccal pump mechanism to force air into the lungs. So they are having a diaphragm system. They are having a diaphragms. The humans are having the diaphragm system, but here in the case of frog, this diaphragm system is totally absent. Instead, they are having the buccal pump. This buccal pump is just present just below the buccal cavity. Okay. So this forces air into their lungs. Air is pushed into the lungs by lowering the floor of the mouth and closing the nostrils. So air, when it is pushed into the lung by lowering the floor of the mouth, that is the buccal pump, and closing the nostril, and at that time the nostril get closed, and whatever the air that is present inside the buccal cavity, it get its passage to move inside the lungs. Next is the skin. The skin is called as cutaneous respiration. The respiration which is done by the skin is called as cutaneous respiration. So frogs can absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide through their skin. Their skin is very thin and they always keep their skin moist, right? So their skin must remain moist to allow for these gas exchange, right? So they always keep their skin moist because on their skin they are having the mucus gland that secretes the mucus and makes its skin always moist. And when they are in water, they do not need to secrete out these mucus substances because this water always keep its skin moist. Up to 1/3 of their oxygen intake can occur through their skin, right? So 1/3 means around 25 to 30%, they are having the oxygen intake through their skin only. But the major organ is the lung. So this is particularly important when the frogs are underwater or in a hibernating position. Hibernating position means you know that when there is a winter season, the activity of the frog is very low. They reduce their metabolic activities and at that time they respire through the skin only. So here you can see the two types of respiration, cutaneous respiration and pulmonary respiration. Cutaneous respiration, skin is responsible, and for pulmonary respiration, lung is responsible, right? Let us move to the next question. Which of these structure is not part of the frog excretory system? Frog's excretory system. This question is from NCERT section 7.2. A. Kidney. B. Ureter. C. Anus. And D. Urinary bladder. Let us see the answer of this question. Yes, the correct answer is anus. Actually, the anus is not found in the case of frog. Instead of anus, they are having an opening that is called as cloacal aperture. Cloacal aperture, not the anus. And anus or even the cloacal aperture is not the part of the excretory system. Okay. So here we can see the kidney, a pair of dark red flattened organ that filter waste product from the blood and produce urine, right? So kidney is a pair of dark red and flattened. This is the description of the kidney. Ureter, tubes that carry urine from the kidney to the urinary bladder. This is the tube-like structure that comes out from the kidney and joins to the urinary bladder. And urinary bladder, a thin walled sac that stores the urine before elimination. And this urinary bladder is attached to which organ? Which organ it is attached? It is attached to cloaca. It is attached to cloaca. So anus is actually the part of the digestive system, not the excretory system. But in frog, anus is not found. Instead of anus, cloaca is present. So here you can see the excretory system. This is the kidney and this is the ureter part. This ureter open into this cloaca. And just here in the cloaca, what you see, there is a urinary bladder. So whatever the urine comes out from the ureter, it gets stored in the urine, and time to time it is eliminated out from the cloacal aperture. Okay. Okay, let's move to our next question. Which of the following is a function of frog's hind limb? Frog's hind limb. This is the NCERT section 7.2. This question is coming from this section. Okay. A, swimming only. B, jumping only. C, both swimming and jumping. And D, walking only. Walking only. Okay. Let us see the answer of this question. Yes, the correct answer is both swimming and jumping. So hind limb of frog is very, very strong. It is a very strong bone, right? And at the time of metamorphosis also, which limbs comes out first? It is the hind limb, right? Right? And it is very, very strong as compared to the forelimb. Okay, let us see the explanation part. Frog's hind limb serve multiple purpose, with swimming and jumping being their primary function. And why they are responsible for the swimming purpose? Can you think about? Their hind limbs digit, in between the digit, they are having membranes, right? They are having membranes, right? That helps in swimming purpose. Swimming function. The webbed feet acts like flippers. Okay, the hind limb in between the digits, they are having the membrane like structure that is called as this feet is called as now webbed feet, and it work like a flipper. It work like a flipper and makes its body to move forward during swimming. The powerful legs pushes against water, and as their legs are very powerful, they can push water against them and they can move forward direction. This allow efficient movement through water, right? So in this way, it allows the movement of their body efficiently in the water. The webbing increases the surface area for the better propulsion. Okay, the webbed feet. If the feet is not webbed, then water can pass out in between the digit. So it will not produce a lot of pressure on the water. But if the feet is webbed, it produces a lot of pressure on the water and help in swimming process, makes his body move forward direction. Jumping function. The strong muscles in the hind leg allow for powerful jump. As we all know that their hind limbs are very powerful, so it's help in jumping purpose also. And they like to jump. They do jumping, right? So to get escape from their enemies or to capture their prey. So the legs act like a spring, storing and releasing energy. This helps them to escape predators and catch prey on the land, right? So to get escape from their predators, their enemies, and also it is helping to catching the prey. Okay, let's move to our next question. What is a characteristic of a male frog that distinguish them from females? NCRT section 7.2, this question is coming. And let us see the options. A, larger size. B, more prominent eye. C, vocal sac. And D, thicker skin. Hmm? So we have one more question earlier. Almost same type, but options were different, right? So you should be very careful with the options. Let us see the answer. Here the correct answer is vocal sac. Male frog possesses specialized vocal sac, and this vocal sac is not found in the case of female. They do not have this vocal sac, right? Only the male frog possesses this specialized vocal sac, which are expandable pouch of a skin located in their throat region. So in the throat region, you can see the membrane is very thin, very minute, and it can get filled with the air, it protrude out. So it forms a pouch-like things. These vocal sac are distinctive secondary sexual characteristic that help distinguish males and female. So this is showing the sexual dimorphism phenomena. Just by seeing, you can easily identify that which is the male frog and which is the female, right? When male frog call or a croak, it produces sound, right? Particularly during the breeding season, they inflate these vocal sac with air. So air get filled in this vocal sac and it get inflated. So it produces sound. Which act as a resonating chamber to amplify their mating calls. This adaptation served the crucial role in attracting female frog and territorial communication. This also, the frogs are also having their territory. Inside their territory, no other male frog is allowed. No other male frog is allowed, right? So they are making their territory. Female frog, in contrast, lack these vocal sac and generally produces softer, less frequent vocalization. So generally when we see or hear the sound of the frog, it is coming from the male frog. So this anatomical differences is one of the key features used to identify the sex of frog in nature. Next question is here. Which of the following is a function of the nictitating membrane in frog? Nictitating membrane in frog. This question is also coming from the NCRT section 7.2. And let us see the option. A, hearing. B, protecting eye underwater. C, digestion. And D, respiration. Okay, so the correct answer is B, protecting the eye underwater, because this nictitating membrane is present where? In the eye only. And here it is functional. But in the case of human, this nictitating membrane is vestigial organ. It is an example of vestigial organ in the human, right? Okay, coming back to frog. Let us discuss about the frog only. Okay, so the nictitating membrane, also known as third eyelid. It is called as third eyelid. Actually, they are having the two eyelids, upper and lower. But this is the third eyelid, and it is a translucent or transparent membrane. So it is making a cover over the eye. That is why it should be transparent. So through this membrane also they are able to see, right? It serves several important functions in frog, particularly when they are underwater. What function they are performing when the frog is underwater? Let us see that. It protects the eye from damage while the frog is swimming underwater. So with the water, it is protecting its eye. Shields the eye from debris and particles in the water. In the water, there could be many dust particles, any debris can be there. So it protects its eye from that part. Allows the frog to see while underwater since it is transparent, right? So it is transparent, so it can see under the water thing also by protecting its eye. Right? So this nictitating membrane is very, very important, and it is considered as a third eye in the case of frog. Okay, let us see the next question. Frogs are known for their ability to catch insect with their. This question is coming from NCERT section 7.2. A, teeth; B, claws; C, sticky tongue; D, powerful jaws. Hmm? Let us see the answer. Yes, the frogs are having the sticky tongue and very flexible tongue. Not only sticky, they are having flexible tongue as well. Frogs are known for their remarkable ability to catch insect using their sticky tongue. Here's a detailed explanation. Let us see the explanation. Tongue structure. Frogs have a unique tongue that is attached to the front of their mouth rather than the back. So, the tongue is not coming from the back, it is attached to the front part of their inner mouth. The tongue can be rapidly extended out of the mouth. They can, throw their tongue outside the environment, and it can rapidly extend in the outer environment. They are having very sticky like substance at the surface of their tongue. You can see here. Their tongue is so long and it is flexible. It can move here and there in the environment. And when any fly comes in contact with this tongue, it easily get a stick to it, because it is having a papilla like a structure which produces adhesive substance all over the tongue. So when a frog spot a prey, it can shoot out its tongue and at incredible speed. In some species, faster than a human blink. It, it takes out tongue very fast, very fast. The tongue can extend up to 1.4 times the frog's body length. And the sticky surface adheres to the prey instantly. The surface is very sticky, so easily the flies or the insect get stick to it, right? And it helps to catch its prey. This is showing the hunting mechanism. Next question is here. Which part of the frog's heart is considered as a pacemaker? Considered the pacemaker. This question is also coming from the NCERT section 7.2. Let us see the options. A, ventricle; B, sinus venosus; C, atrium; and D, conus arteriosus. Which part of the heart is considered as a pacemaker? Let us see the answer. B, sinus venosus here. The sinus venosus is considered as a pacemaker. And why? Let us find out. The sinus venosus is located at the posterior end of the heart that receive the deoxygenated blood from the body. Okay, this venosus part is present at the posterior part of the heart, and they receive all the deoxygenated blood. The deoxygenated blood coming from the upper part of the body as well as lower parts of the body, right? So they are having the superior vena cava that comes from the upper part of the body, and that is why it is called as superior, coming from the upper part of the body. And there are also having the inferior vena cava that comes from the lower parts of the body. Inferior means lower. Now, both these vena cava joins at the posterior part of the heart. Okay, and they forms a triangular shaped sinus venosus like thing. So it contains specialized cardiac muscles that are called as autorhythmic cells. Now, this this region means sinus venosus are having a very specialized cardiac muscle cell which are called as autorhythmic cells. So it is having the auto contractibility activity there. They generate electric impulses spontaneously without external nerve stimulation. They do not get any type of nerve stimulation from the outside, but they can generate the electric impulse. And these cells have the highest intrinsic rate of spontaneous depolarization in the heart, making the sinus venosus a natural pacemaker, right? In the case of human, SAN node, they are having the nodal tissue like things, SAN node and AV node, right? There the SAN node is working like a pacemaker, okay? But here in the case of frog, okay, sinus venosus is the pacemaker. So here you can see the sinus venosus when uh it generate the electric impulse, it passes to atria contract, and all the blood which is present in the atria is poured into the ventricle. Now ventricle contract and pushes the blood to the conus arteriosus. In this way, the blood moves in the heart of the frog. So just remember this pacemaker, sinus venosus. Next question. A frog digestive system include a specialized structure that is called as the cloaca, which serve as a common chamber for. This question is also coming from the NCERT section 7.2. Options, let us see. A. Digestion and absorption. B. Excretion and reproduction. C. Respiration and digestion. And both excretion and means excretion, reproduction, and digestion, right? Okay, let us see the answer. It is the option B, excretion and reproduction. So the cloaca is a specialized structure found in many vertebrates, including the frogs, that serve as a common chamber for excretory system because they are the part of the excretory system. Okay, the cloaca receive the waste product from the urinary system. They receive the waste from the urinary system. Nitrogenous waste substances. Urine from the kidney passes through the ureter into the cloaca. Okay, it comes to the cloaca. It get collected inside the urinary bladder, and time to time it is eliminated from the cloacal aperture, right? So nitrogenous waste substances is eliminated out through the cloaca. The bladder also connect to the cloaca. Urinary bladder, this also get connected to the cloaca, right? So here you can see the urinary bladder, and this region is called as the cloaca, and this is the cloacal aperture. You can see this urinogenital tract. Urinogenital tract, it open inside the cloaca here, right? So how it is related or connected to the reproductive system? Let us see. In males, the sperm passes through the cloaca during the mating. During the mating time, the sperms that are produced inside the testes, it comes out from the testes, vasa differentia, through vasa differentia, and the end of the vasa differentia is having a canal system that is called as Bidder's canals. And this Bidder's canals enter or present inside the kidney that joins to the ureter. Inside and inside it moves to the kidney and joins to the ureter part. Okay. So whatever the sperms that are produced in the testes comes out out of the testes, passes through the vasa differentia, Bidder's canal, and then comes to the ureter part. And where the ureter is opening, it is opening into the cloacal region. In females, the egg passes through the cloaca during laying, right? The eggs are passing through the cloaca during the laying process, but it is not passing to the ureter. They are having a very different oviduct tube. A separate oviduct tube comes and joins to the cloaca region. Key point about the cloaca, it is a multi-purpose terminal chamber. It is a final exit point, both excretory and reproductive products. Right? Okay. Let's move to our next question. Which of the following is not a characteristics of a frog's circulatory system? So this question is again coming from the NCERT section 7.2. Options are as follows. 3-chamber heart, 2 atria and 1 ventricle. B. Presence of hepatic portal system. C. Presence of erythrocyte, red blood cells containing hemoglobin. And D. Open circulatory system. So you have to choose the option which is not showing in the frog. Let us see the answer of this question. The correct option is option D, open circulatory system. In the case of frog, they are having the closed type of circulatory system, right? Let us see the explanation. This is incorrect because the frog do have a closed circulatory system. The heart pumps the blood and blood comes out from the heart via blood vessels, arteries. Arteries takes the pure blood. They takes the pure blood from heart to the different parts of the body. And from the different parts of the body, bloods are brought back to the heart, deoxygenated one, brought back to the heart via veins, right? And they are having very minute capillaries as well. So they are having blood vessels in the form of arteries, veins, and capillaries, right? Let's examine each option. 3-chamber heart, yes, it is true. 2 atria and 1 ventricle. This is a feature, very important feature of the amphibians. Frogs have 3-chamber heart consisting of 2 atria and 1 ventricle. B. Presence of hepatic portal system. Yes, they are having the 2 different types of portal system. Hepatic portal system and renal portal system. Very, very important thing we see in the case of frog, right? This is also true. And the frogs have hepatic portal system. This system carries blood from the digestive tract back to the liver. They take blood to the liver. Presence of erythrocyte containing the hemoglobin. This is again true. Frogs have nucleated red blood cells containing hemoglobin. This is again a very important feature. They are having nucleated red blood cells. In the case of human, the red blood cells are not nucleated. It is called enucleated. Instead, nucleated, it is called enucleated. Means it is not having nucleus, right? Open circulatory system. This is false. They are not having open circulatory system. They are having closed one. Frogs have closed circulatory system where the blood is contained or transported via vessels. Next question. The term poikilothermic when applied to a frog means NCERT section 7.2. The question is coming from there. And the options are A. It has a constant body temperature. B. Its body temperature fluctuates with the environment. C. It regulates its body temperature to the internal mechanism. And D. It has a very high body temperature. Okay, let's move to the answer part of this question. Poikilotherms means they are having cold-blooded. They cannot maintain their body temperature. So its body temperature fluctuates with the environment. Okay, they fluctuate with the environment. It cannot regulate its body temperature. Very, very important because it is a cold-blooded animal. Poikilothermic refers to organism whose internal body temperature varies considerably according to the surrounding environment, right? So they cannot maintain their internal body temperature and it varies considerably. This is why the poikilotherm animals are also known as cold-blooded, right? They are also known as cold-blooded animals. Their body temperature change with the environment temperature. So if the environment temperature is very low, the temperature of their body will also becomes low. And at that time, it's very difficult to survive. So what the frogs do at that time? It go for hibernation. Similarly, in the case of summer season, the temperature is very high and their body temperature also become very high. So at that time, the frogs go for estivation, summer sleep, reduce this metabolic activity, not do any work, just go for sleep, right? So they cannot internally regulate their body temperature effectively. They rely on external source of heat like sunlight to warm up during the hibernation. And they use behavioral adaptation to regulate the temperature, right? They move to the sunny or the shady areas. So this is the behavior, right? Next question. In frogs, the structure that help in balancing during swimming and jumping is. This is coming from the NCERT section 7.2. Options are A, forelimbs, B, hind limbs, C, tympanic membrane, and D, nictitating membrane, right? Swimming and jumping. Hind limbs. The answer is correct. Yes, B, hind limbs. So in frogs, hind limbs are the primary structure responsible for balancing during the swimming and jumping. Structural adaptations. Hind limb in the frog is long, muscular, and powerful. Have webbed feet that helps in swimming purpose. Possesses specialized joint and muscle for powerful jumping. Functions. Provide propulsions during swimming. So it makes their body at the surface only. Propulsion at the time of swimming due to this strong leg. Enable powerful jumping movements. Helps maintain balance during the both aquatic and terrestrial locomotion. So this hind limb is helping to making a balance between the aquatic environment as well as the terrestrial environment. Act as a stabilizer during landing. Next question. What is the primary function of Bidder's canal in a male frog? Because Bidder's canal is found in the male frog only. So what is primary function? This question is coming from the NCERT section 7.2. And let us see the options. A, excretion of nitrogenous waste substance. B, storage of bile. Transportation of sperm. And D, formation of sperm. Let us see the answer of this question. So the correct answer is option C, transportation of sperm. Transportation of sperm. Bidder's canal, also known as Bidder's duct in male frog, primary function as a sperm transport system. Here are the key points. It is located in the kidney region and runs parallel to the ureter, right? It is present in the kidney only. Serve as a passage for sperm from the testes to the cloaca. So through this, the sperm passes from the testes to the cloacal region and act as a sperm duct or vas deferens. It can be said that it is an extension of the vast difference. Facilitate the transport of male gametes during the reproduction. So this bidder canal is very, very important in the case of frog. It's found in the male frog only. Next question. Now this question is match the column type of, right? So which type of correctly match? Okay, not the match the column. It is, you have to find out which of the option is correctly matched, right? So one column tissue is there and in another column location. A, smooth muscle, wall of intestine. B, areolar tissue, tendons. C, transitional epithelium, nose tip. And D, cuboidal epithelium, lining of stomach. So this question is coming from the NCERT section 7.1 and the options are A, B, C, D. Let us see the answer. Okay. Option this A, a smooth muscle wall of intestine. Smooth muscle is present where? Wall of intestine, right? Because smooth muscle is involuntary, showing the involuntary action. And do you know whether the food is in the stomach or small intestine or the large intestine? Are we able to know? No, it is not in our control, right? So this smooth muscle, as it is involuntary action, it is found in the wall of intestine. This is the correct one, right? Let us see the explanation. Smooth muscle, wall of intestine, it is correct. And the smooth muscles are found in the wall of internal organ, visceral organ. The visceral organ means the organ that are present in the body cavity. And this intestine is also present in the body cavity. They are involuntary muscle responsible for the peristalsis and other digestive movements, right? This is a correct match. Areolar tissue. It is showing it is a type of tendons. Areolar tissue is not a type of tendon. This is incorrect. Tendons are made of dense regular connective tissue, not the areolar one. And areolar tissue is found beneath the skin and between the organs. This is an incorrect match. Transitional epithelium that is present on the nose tip. This is also incorrect. Nose tip has stratified squamous epithelium. And transitional epithelium is found in the urinary bladder. This is incorrect. Areolar tissue is found beneath the skin and between the organ. This is an incorrect match. Cuboidal epithelium, they are lining of stomach. This is also incorrect as the stomach is lined with the simple columnar epithelium. They are having a very simple type of columnar epithelium. Simple cuboidal epithelium is found in the kidney tubes and thyroid follicles. This is incorrect match. Next question is here. Okay, recorded lectures are present on the website only. You can, when you get registered here, you can go there and you can see day wise. We are having the recorded lecture there. Okay. So the next question, let us take the next question. Frog's heart, when taken out of the body, continues to beat for some time. Select the best option from the following statement. A, frog is poikilotherm. B, frog does not have any coronary circulation. C, heart is myogenic in nature. And D, heart is auto-excitable. So what are the options that are correct? A, only D. B, A and B. According to the C and D. And option D says only C. Let us see the answer. The answer is option C, C and D. The heart ability to beat independently when removed from the body is primarily due to the myogenic nature. The heart is having a myogenic nature. It is having the auto excitability. The presence of a specialized cardiac muscle, particularly the sinoarterial node, allows the spontaneous generation of electrical impulse. It can produce its own electrical impulse. So both myogenic nature and auto excitability. The statement C and D, right? Especially essentially describing the same property that enables the heart to beat independently. So if we dissect a frog and we take out the heart of the frog from its body, then also you can see the heart is it is showing the myogenic nature. It is beating for some time. Next question. The ciliated epithelium cells are required to move particularly or mucus in a specific direction. In humans, these cells are mainly present in NCERT section 7.1. This question is coming from. And the options are as follows. A, bile duct and bronchioles. B, fallopian tubes and pancreatic duct. Eustachian tube and salivary duct. D, bronchioles and fallopian tubes. So the correct answer is option D, bronchioles and fallopian tubes. Let us see the explanation. Ciliated epithelium cells are specialized cells with the hair-like projection cilia on their surface that move in a coordinated manner to transport particles or fluid in a specific direction. And in humans, they are found where? First, bronchioles and respiratory tract. Ciliated cells line the respiratory tract from the nose to the bronchioles. So, inside the respiratory tract, you can see they are having the cilia-like cells, right? They are present in the nose, they are present in the bronchioles as well. They help the mucus containing trapped dust particles. So they are having the mucus substances at the lining, right? And these can trap the dust particle and whatever the microorganism coming with the air, right? So they do not allow these particles to enter inside the respiratory tract. This process is called mucociliary clearance or the mucus elevator. Fallopian tube, they are also having this ciliated epithelium. Ciliated cells line the fallopian tubes. So they help transport the ovum cells from the ovary toward the uterus, right? So by the beating of the cilia, they allow the ovum or the egg cells to move forward into the uterus part. The coordinated beating of the cilia creates a current that moves the ovum along the supporting fluid. Next question. Cuboidal epithelium with the brush border of the microvilli is found in. This question is also coming from the NCERT section 7.1. Let us see the options. A, ducts of salivary glands. B, proximal convoluted tubule of nephron. C, eustachian tube. And D, lining of intestine. Let us see the answer. B, proximal convoluted tubule of nephron. Cuboidal epithelium with the brush border of the microvilli is characteristically found in the proximal convoluted tubule part, that is called as PCT of nephron. Let us understand why. Structure of PCT. For this, we have to understand the cells are cuboidal in shape. If you see the proximal convoluted tubule part, they are having the cuboidal shape cells. They have prominent brush border made up of microvilli. And these microvilli generally increase the surface area for the reabsorption process, right? Function. The brush border increase the surface area and helps to reabsorption usefully. Useful substances with great, like they can increase the surface area and maximum absorption they allow. About 65% of the filtered sodium and water is reabsorbed here in the proximal convoluted tubule. Glucose, ammonia acids, and other important molecules are also reabsorbed here. The increased surface area helps the efficient reabsorption process. Next question. Goblet cells of the alimentary canals are modified from. This is again coming from the NCERT section 7.1. Let us see the option. A. Columnar epithelial cells. B. Chondrocytes. C. Compound epithelials. And squamous epithelial cells. Goblet cells. So the correct answer is columnar epithelial cells. Okay, columnar epithelial cells. Goblet cells are specialized secretory cells that are modified from columnar epithelial cells. And they are found in epithelial lining of the respiratory tract, means they are present in the epithelial lining of the respiratory tract, intestinal epithelium, and the mucous membrane. Now, these goblet cells have a distinct goblet-like shape. That is why they are called as goblet cells. And the base contain the nucleus and other organelles. If you see the cell structure, they are having the nucleus at the base. Apical portion is destined with the mucin granules. And they secrete mucin, the main component of the mucus. Next question. Identify the types of cell junction that helps to stop and leakage of the substances across a tissue and facilitation of the communication and neighboring cells via rapid transfer of ions and molecules. This question is also coming from the NCERT section 7.1. Options are A. Adherent junction and gap junction respectively. B. Gap junction and adhering junction respectively. C. Tight junction and gap junction respectively. And D. Adhering junction and tight junction respectively. Let us see the answer. The correct answer is C. Tight junction and gap junction respectively. Tight junction. What is the function of tight junction? These junctions form the watertight seal between. So they do not allow the substances to move in between the cells. They prevent leakage of substances between the cells. And the common in epithelial tissue where they maintain the tissue integrity. Right? They are very common in the epithelial type of tissue. Example, intestinal epithelium where they prevent the leakage of digestive enzyme. They do not allow any digestive enzyme to get leaked out from there. So they are present in the intestinal epithelium. Now, the second type of junction, gap junction. It allows the communicating junction. Now, through this junction, the substances can move from one cell to the other. Allow the direct communication between the adjacent cells, and they form the channels, connexons, that allow rapid transfer of ions, small molecules, and some metabolites. So this is all about today's session. Thank you very much for attending today's session. We will meet again. Till then, take care and bye.